but yeah, and I actually found out years ago, probably back in 2018, I reconnected. So to get back to Amityville, and I'll put a link to this blog post that I did in the description below. But I was talking to a newfound cousin of mine. Like we went through ancestry, and one of my cousin's husband, I guess he was like really big on ancestry, so he found a whole bunch of lost Stromings who had kind of
Wow.
dispersed across the country, and they put together like a family reunion and everything. We went. It was up in Schenectady. They live up there. We went a few years
Mhm.
ago. We went. We met all these people that we had never known before, but they're family, and it was a really cool day. But my cousin Katerina, she was telling me that her grandfather lived in Amityville
Mhm.
when the DeFeo family lived there. So like in the early 70s, and she was telling me the story about how. And it's a little boating, it's on Long Island, so you have Long Island, you have the ocean right there. This is on the southern end of Long Island, and he was out in his boat because a lot of people go boating. You'll see this in the movie too, a lot of boating. So allegedly, her grandfather, who was like one of my great uncles, twice removed. I forget how he's a distant relative. He's not a very close relative. I
Right.
never knew him, but he told her this story about how he was out boating one day, and uh, this other boat drives by very fast and very close to his boat, and the wake of the waves rocks his boat, and he falls down and injures himself, has to go to the hospital, and he goes to the parents' house. It turns out the kid in the boat was Robert DeFeo Jr. before he killed his
Right.
family. And I guess her grandfather told my cousin that he kind of knew the family, not very well, but they were in the neighborhood and, say hi, casual acquaintances basically. But that he had been in the Amityville home. He knew the parents, and the parents actually paid his medical bills because of what their son did. Because again, he incurred uh, injuries from his boat rocking, and I guess he was an older guy at the time. He has passed. He passed even before I met this cousin, so I have not had a chance to interview him. He's long gone. But and again, I don't know how true this story is. It's a stretch to sort of say this is a relative. I mean, it's a very distant relative, but a cool connection to a very famous case. And
Yeah.
we all know how family stories go. I don't know how true this is. This could have
Mhm.
been, maybe it wasn't Robert, maybe it was one of the other kids, and but you hear the Amityville horror story comes out, and memory switches, and it wasn't this kid, it was actually Robert. It was the kid who murdered them, and he knocked me over in my boat. So I don't know how true the story is. I don't know how much of that, again, just like the Amityville horror story itself, I don't know how much of it is true.
Right. We don't know.
Don't know, but he had told her this many years ago, again, kind of like before the internet was a big thing, before the ghost hunting trend had really popped up out there. uh, but he had just mentioned, oh, Amityville, I used to live out there, and this kid, Robert DeFeo Jr., knocked me over in my boat one time, and his parents paid my medical bills, and I was actually inside that house. Has nothing to do with the paranormal. He did not experience anything there. He can't
Right.
speak to anything that happened after, but just a little, interesting connection to the DeFeo family and my family. So I always thought that was kind of cool, if it's true.
Very chilling. I mean, meeting a mass murderer, you know, before he actually commits mass murder.
Yeah, and that's kind of how she presented it to me, was just that at the time, it's just, oh, here's this neighborhood kid who's kind of a hot shot and a little bit reckless, and knocked me over my boat. And I had to go to his parents and be like, hey, like your kid did this while we are out on the water. And his parents were like, fine, we'll pay the medical bill. And then, yeah, a couple of years later, he murders his entire family. And it's like huge news, especially here in New York. And then it gets turned into the
Yeah.
Amityville horror story, which everybody knows now. So just to have that familial connection. And again, if my family had gone differently, like we probably would have known these people. They were, not immediate family, but they were close enough where I guess if my grandfather had been closer to some of his, closer relations, his cousins and stuff, like we may have known this person.
Right.
So I may have, in that case, I could have maybe gotten the story firsthand when I was much younger. But yeah, sadly, he passed before I met Katerina. So it's just another cool anecdote at this point. So you choose
Yeah.
to believe it or choose not to believe it. But um, yes, I don't know what to make of the Amityville haunting. I tend to err on the side of it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Um, because nobody since has had anything happen to them. And I don't think the Lutzes said anything happened to them after they moved out. So where did this tremendous, tremendous demonic energy or entity go when the Lutzes left? It just disappeared.
Yeah. So why just for 28 days?
Right. And the movie even addresses this. They say at one point in the movie, energy can not be destroyed or created, it just changes form. So where, if this energy did exist, where did it go? It didn't follow the Lutzes, it didn't stay in the house. No one else in the neighborhood that I know of ever experienced bleeding walls and all the other creepy things that allegedly happened in the house. So I don't know.
Thank
Um,
goodness.
thank goodness, because yeah, it's just, but it just it has that reek of Hollywood to me. You know, when people, anytime people found out I was a ghost hunter, they wanted great stories, and I was like, yeah, there's this one time we, you know, we heard these three footsteps, and they're like, and then I was like, no, that was it. They're like, yeah, but you said you were there for like 12 hours. I was like, yeah, that's what we heard. We heard like three footsteps. And that was an exciting evening. Most nights we go and nothing happens. So it's not like you see in the movies, because if it were, somebody would whip out a cell phone and say, oh, my walls are bleeding. Let me take video of this. And it never happens. It's always that fleeting, you know, you're laying in bed and you hear footsteps. And by the time you open your eyes, it's gone. And it's just an echo in your mind. And you don't have the time to record it. You don't have the time to take pictures. It's fleeting glimpses. It's subtle things. It's things that you don't think are paranormal at first until you remember, oh wait, I'm home alone, or I'm hearing voices in the next room. My brother must have come up, and then you go into the next room and there's nobody there, and
Nobody
you're saying
there,
like, okay, who was just talking at 2 a.m. in my apartment? So,
which
um,
is a valid question.
valid question, but yes, I don't know. It does. You know, I do wonder, because the Lutzes did die saying that this was true, mostly
Right.
true. Uh, but again, people can be stubborn, and people could just, you know, you don't know when you're going to die all the time. So you could just be holding on to something because you're trying to make money off of it. And then your time is up and you never confessed to it being fake. So again, I honestly, I think a lot of this was probably psychological. I am not doubting that they may have experienced things that
Mhm.
maybe they thought were paranormal. But as you said earlier, being tired, being stressed, being in an unfamiliar environment, all those things could add up. You know, owning your own business, being financially strapped. And they mentioned this in the movie too, that they're just,
Yeah,
they can
often.
barely afford this place. You know, they're a young family, they're a blended family. I mean, just so many stresses and obstacles and things that could come in. And yeah, you add to the fact that, okay, we bought a murder house, and not just any murder house, like one of the one of the most gruesome and famous murder houses in New York ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe some of the things that they were hearing got blown out of proportion in their mind, and a normal house settling sound turned into get out or banging on the wall, or you know. So that's my take on it. I don't think it was a complete hoax, but I think things got embellished, and I think things were misidentified and blown out of proportion. And yeah, just a very sad story, because six people did die. So
Yeah.
um, tragic, but
It is
great movie.
tragic.
Great movie. I'm glad you watched it. I'm glad you texted me about it.
Yeah. Separating fact from fiction. This the story doesn't have to be real. It doesn't have to have happened uh, to make that. I mean, it's a very good film. It doesn't matter if those things actually happened. But of course, those things did happen. So we have to. I mean, to the DeVeo family. So you have to acknowledge the tragedy, and something came of it.
Yeah, and maybe they did experience something. Who knows? Again, like, we're just going by probabilities here. We're not going by definites. We're just saying, you know, Occam's razor. You got to, you know, the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. Simplest explanation here is that they were stressed, they were tired, unfamiliar territory. The psychology of buying a murder house got to them, and
Yeah.
they frightened themselves, and then wrote a book about it and became very successful from that. But who knows? Maybe there was a demon there. Maybe something really
Right. Who
terrifying
knows?
was there, and then left and went somewhere else, and we'll just never know. So
Right.
yeah, so good chat, man. This is I like dissecting these movies with you, especially when there's like this little basis in reality. That's always cool. And
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me on again.
yeah, of course. Gotta pump up those numbers. Those are rookie numbers. Gotta get you up to like 75% of the time you're on my podcast.
Oh my God.
I was gonna have you in the background sometimes. I'll just have you on video. You can mute your mic. You could
I'll just sit here.
just do your work in the background and
Yeah.
occasionally just give a thumbs up or whatever. And this way I can say you've been on all the podcasts.
Well, anytime you need me, of course, I'm available. So let me know.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, my brother. You came through this week. And again, it was funny because after we stopped texting, I thought about this episode. Like the
Yeah.
seeds were planted. I wasn't sure like how to do it or if we should do it, but yeah, then I was like, the more I thought about it, I was like, we got to do an Amityville episode. Because then I wanted to watch it again. I was like, I got to watch
Yeah.
this movie because it's a good film, and I haven't seen it yet, probably since the Channel 11 or the Channel 9 days, whichever.
Yeah.
I think it was probably Channel 11 that used to show it, but
I think it was 11 as well.
just like little local affiliate would show,
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon horror movies, and I always
And
catch.
that's certainly not why I texted you. It's like, oh, we should do a podcast on this. I need to talk to somebody. It was still
Yeah,
awake.
you're not usually up that late. Neither am I.
No, not
Um,
at all.
but
But
I'm more likely to be up at that hour than you. So when you were texting me, I was
yeah.
like, oh man, something's off because it's like 11:30 and he's texting me funny memes. And then you were like, yeah, I just watched the Amityville Horror.
Yeah. I
And you
mean,
asked me if I was still a night owl. And I'm like, no, I'm really not. Like most nights by 10:30, 11 o'clock, I'm just crawling into bed. And I used to be the night owl. I used to stay up till 3, 4 in the morning. But
yeah, that's why I figured. It's like, oh, Jay'll still be up. Let me text him.
and I was most
Yeah,
nights I wouldn't have been. I don't know why I was up that night, but most nights I'm usually asleep, or at least my phone is off and I'm trying to go to sleep at that point.
right.
And I've just like
And
silenced everything.
I'm very grateful that you were up and it led to this. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I hope all your viewers enjoy the episode.
Yeah, I hope so. So, yeah, if you guys are watching and listening, let us know what you think of the Amityville horror in the comments below. Is it
Yeah.
an actual horror or is it just a hoax? So,
Horror or hoax.
horror or hoax. That's going to be the name of this
Yeah.
episode. I already decided that.
All right.
Yeah.
Great.
So, I'm throwing it in there right now just so it looks like I
Yeah.
came up with it. Yeah, but I did come up with it beforehand. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, brother. You made copious notes and did lots of research, and I was kind of on Wikipedia 5 minutes before you signed on. So I appreciate you doing a lot of the heavy lifting as far as research. Um,
I love research, so no need to think.
yeah, but I do appreciate it, and we will do this again soon.
Absolutely, brother. Take
Yeah.
care.
All right, man. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. I want to thank my buddy John for coming on the show once again, 13th time. Crazy to me that he's been on so much, but awesome for me because I never in a million years thought that we would be doing this show together so often. It's great. So, yeah, Amityville Horror. What do you guys think? Was it a hoax? Was it a real horror? Was it somewhere in between? Let us know down in the comments below. We have our thoughts. We've shared those. So let us know what you guys think. Very tragic story, but, weird stuff apparently happened afterwards and little family connection to that. As we stopped recording, a little weird thing happened. So I'm going to show that here if you guys want to see that and stick around for that. So once I say rock and roll, I'm not quite done yet. So watch a little outtake here. And until next week, everybody, rock and roll and watch the outtake.
Speaking of voices, I think I heard someone. I don't know if anyone's someone.
That's not cool.
Uh, okay, so no one's home. I don't know where, and actually, no one's living downstairs right now. The old tenants moved out, so no one's home. And also, this is a cross made with palms was on the floor.
Oh,
So
no.
great, yeah. I was about to put it on the Amityville horror case, but I think I'll just put it back.
Maybe
Oh,
not.
great
It'll
idea.
burst into flames now.